In the Wake County Public School System, we believe every student deserves to be challenged and engaged in relevant, rigorous, and meaningful learning each day. We also value a diverse student community that is respectful, inclusive, and supportive of all students. A new Harvard study suggests that how students feel about school can be a reliable indicator of how well they do in school. Therefore, it is critical for us to learn about student emotions and if they are truly engaged. To do this, we administer the Student Engagement Survey to students in grades 5, 8, and 9 each spring.
Our conversations between myself and Mr. Butler on student surveying and perceptions first began after we went to MTSS training. And one of the things that we talked about was we felt like there wasn't as much emphasis being placed on the learner. And that's a very important data point.
We deployed a test last year with about 120 kids to look at those questions based off of were they on an MTSS watch list, a regular math class, or advanced math class to see, is there really any difference in how the kids perceive school and their relationships with teachers and peers?
This 50-item survey covers the following themes: teacher-student relationships, rigor, student work, peer support, future goals, civic engagement, family support, and grit.
The two areas that really stand out to me are the student perceptions of their teachers and the student perceptions of the school. Because whether we want to admit it or not, the way the students view their teachers and their school plays a huge factor in how those students work in the classroom and possibly how much achievement they're able to reach within that classroom. Because a lot of times we ignore relationships, and relationships do matter.
Well, what we're going to look at is we're going to look at where the kids are at right now and what kids we deem at risk. Because, we've looked at, for years, we've looked at intervention programs and checklists and things like that, and we get a frustration level when we see that kids still aren't being successful because of it. So what we want to see is in creating that environment or those relationships with kids, does that help everything else fall into place better with us academically? Do we start to see the interventions then be more effective? Do we see the outcomes become better?
One thing that we found was that our students who were at risk did have a negative perception of their teachers, while our control students in the middle and our advanced students generally had more of a positive view of their teachers.
We feel like this might actually give us a good monitoring tool, looking at kids' baseline scores that have come in from 5th grade to 6th grade, to see where those kids were at with that, look at how they performed with growth and proficiency, and then kind of monitoring that to see, are we having the impact we want in creating the environment we want for the kids?
What's obvious to me may not be obvious to the next teacher. And that's when the data really comes in as being important. Because I can walk by a classroom and say it's obvious that those kids are not engaged or those kids are not connecting with that teacher, but that teacher may not notice it. But when I pull out a piece of paper and it has the students' responses on there, and the student says, I believe this teacher is unfair to me, or I believe this teacher is ignoring me in class, whatever the survey question may be, that becomes a real eye-opener. So the data is not your end-all be-all, it's more of a roadmap. It's a tool in your toolbox, something to help you achieve where you want to go.
I always like to look at correlations between things, because looking at any piece of data or any survey data in isolation of itself doesn't really tell you a lot. You're asking, what is the impact going to be? What do I want the impact to be if we do this? Is what we're doing impacting what we think it might? And then if we do see that positive correlation change, do we see the kids performing better? And if we see that over the year, then what does that look like for the kids growth-wise at the end of the year?
Well, it's always worth the time and the effort. Studies show that students who are engaged tend to achieve higher and have a higher graduation rate. And when we talk about engaged, we're not just talking about whether or not they're paying attention in class. We're talking about, are they emotionally and socially connected with the things happening in their school? So it's always worth the time.
School staff can use the information from the student survey to identify trends and compare the responses of students within their school to students across the district. Staff can use survey results to determine how they can help students feel more connected and engaged. For more information, contact the Data Research and Accountability Office at 919-533-7137 or view the 2015-16 survey results at wcpss.net/survey results.